Would you believe me if I told you mobile home parks aren't the easy passive investments that people online make them out to be? Sure, everybody talks about cash flow, recession proof, and passive income, but here's the truth. It's not all sunshine and lot rent. Now, I'm currently an owner in 15 mobile home parks here in Louisiana, and I've learned there are some real challenges really nobody tells us about. But if you know how to handle them, the rewards are massive. Let's get into it. Number one, let's talk about the problems that nobody warns you about. Now, when I bought my first mobile home park, I thought I'd found the absolute perfect investment. Low tenant turnover, steady cash flow, no toilets to fix. Sounded great, right? What I didn't expect were the headaches. Let me start with the first one. Zoning. Cities hate mobile home parks. Let me say that again. Cities hate mobile home parks. They don't want them in their growth plans. So when you try to either expand or improve a park, or if you go buy a piece of land, they'll stall, they'll delay, or they'll just flat out deny permits. We had one park under contract, perfect numbers on paper, but the city refused to renew the operating permit because, quote, mobile homes don't fit our long-term vision. That's a $3 million deal that basically just went away and died overnight. Now, let's talk about the second thing, the hidden costs no spreadsheet shows, and that is this: infrastructure. A lot of the older parks still run on 1960s water lines, clay sewer pipes, or outdated electrical systems. Well, when you look at your spreadsheets and you look at all the marketing material, you don't see that in there. On one park that we actually bought, we had to replace the entire septic field after closing. $85,000 gone in 1 week. But here's what I've learned. If you do proper due diligence up front and you plan for capital improvements early, you can fix once and then cash flows for years. That's what separates smart investors from speculators. Now let's talk about the tenants. The good, the bad, and the reality. Now, when people hear mobile home parks, they picture chaos, junk cars, bad tenants, pit bulls roaming around, and constant drama. But that's not always true, but it can be if you buy the wrong park. We bought one park where collections were around 58% when we first took over. People just weren't paying. Now, we brought in a new person that was managing our properties, our other properties, and she went in. She started to enforce consistent rules, helped us clean up the park. And after about 6 months, we turned it around. Now, that same park runs at around 98% collections, and the value jumped up over $500,000 because of that. Sometimes just good management is the difference between a headache and a home run. Now, here is why I still love this asset class. If it's this much work, Jeff, you're probably thinking, why do I still invest in mobile home parks? Because once you solve these problems that we're discussing, the upside is incredible. Let me give you an example. We bought a park and we raised rents by just $50. It was a park that had 50 lots, okay? We bought it. The lot rents were very low for the area. We raised them $50. And typically when we go in and raise our lot rents, we still keep them a little bit lower than what the average is. So even though we're charging more, it doesn't justify them to move, because if they move to another park, number one, it costs anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 for somebody to come in and move their home. But if they did move their home into an adjacent park, they're still going to be paying more. So that's why we identify parks that are severely under market rent. We raise them up, but we still keep them a little bit less than the others. Okay. So this park had 50 lots, was 50, but we raised it $50. So $50 times 50 lots, that's an extra $2,500 a month, or $30,000 a year. Day one, when we bought the park, $30,000 a year in NOI, net operating income. Now, at a 7% cap rate, that adds over $428,000 in property value just from that one small change. Show me another asset class where you can create nearly $500,000 in value just by improving management. And remember, like I said, most of the tenants, they don't move when you go up $50. because depending on if it's a single wide or a mobile or a double wide, it could be anywhere from 3 to 5 thousand or $8 to $10,000 to not only come in and move that home, but they actually have to go move it somewhere else, set it up, put the skirting, hook up the utilities, that sort of thing. So they'd rather just stay and pay the extra $50. That's what makes this business so stable. Now, here's what a lot of the high income earners that invest with us love the most. And it's the bonus that a lot of people don't talk about. And it's this: the tax benefits or the tax advantages. Now, when you get a cost segregation study and then you use bonus depreciation, we can usually write off 30 to 40% of the purchase price in year one. One of my investors told me that he saved more in taxes from one park than he earned all year from his Roth IRA. That's the kind of thing your financial advisor is never going to tell you. Now, make no mistake, we still manage risk. So we have to talk about how we actually protect ourselves. For us, we only buy in solid markets with job growth, solid job growth. We focus on TOH, tenant owned homes, instead of POH, park owned homes. So the tenant owns the home, not the park. If the park owned the home, if the park owner owned the home, he would rent them out. You got to deal with maintenance. We don't want to deal with maintenance. We avoid flood zones. We avoid older infrastructure and cities unfriendly to affordable housing. And we always keep reserves. And I can't stress this enough. Always, when you buy a property, you always want to keep some reserves back for improvements that you may be making, that you already know that you're going to be making, but there's always things that come up. Things will always come up. Things will always break. So always have reserves in place. I can tell you, if you plan for that, you will sleep much better at night. Now, this is one of the reasons why many of our investors are doctors, there's dentists, they're small business owners. They're joining this in these deals because they're out there, they're tired of trading time for money. They want predictable cash flow. They want they don't want any headaches. They don't want any maintenance. They want strong tax benefits without managing the tenants or the toilets or anything like that. One dentist who actually invested in one of our parks said, "Jeff, I made more money in 3 months from this deal than I did all of last year in my 401k." Here's another important thing. With a 401k, you can't touch it until you're 60. This money that we're talking about now, it comes in your pocket now, and you're not paying any taxes on it as long as you keep playing the tax game. I'm not an accountant, talk to yours. But this is allowing you to get to the point that work is optional versus just putting your money in for a rainy day in a 401k. All right. So again, when you start doing this, this is when you realize financial freedom, it doesn't come from just saving harder, putting money in a 401k, putting money in the market. It comes from owning assets. I call them IPA, income producing assets. You want to own assets. The rich own assets that pay them every month. They don't go out and trade time for money. You go sit on a plane in first class, you start talking to somebody that's wealthy, and you ask them what they do. They don't say, "I am a whatever. I am a dentist. I am a doctor. I am an attorney. I am a plumber." They typically start off by saying, "Well, I own this business. I own this property or these assets or whatever." They're owners. That's a different way of thinking. So let's talk about in closing, let's talk about the real truth about mobile home park investing. Like I started off by saying, it's not easy, it's not passive, and it's definitely not a get rich quick scheme. But again, if you learn the business, partner with the right people, and buy smart, it can completely change your life like it did mine. Okay. It changed my life. I went from relying 100% on my hands as a periodontist to owning assets that pay me. It's not about making more money. It's about how you're making money. The assets are paying me whether I'm in the office or I'm at the beach with my family. Still get paid. As a periodontist, I couldn't do that. I couldn't make money on the beach with my family. I had to be in the office. And that's the kind of freedom that I want for you too. Now, if you want to see exactly how we find and evaluate these deals, including the exact numbers that we look for, good news. I got it in this video.